Abby and I followed very similar footsteps. We both had great parents. And when I graduated from high school, I was already working on boats 7 days a week and 6 nights a week. And my dad said, you got to go to college. And I said, well, I don't know if the college is for me. I know I'm going to be a fisherman when I grow up. He says, no, you got to go to college. So we finally compromised. I want 1 semester. And in Abby's case, he was dead set on being a fisherman, or at least an outdoor writer. And his dad said, you got this college program where the state's going to pay for you to go to college. You got to go to college. No, Dad, I really need to go fishing. No, you got to go to college. And both of our fathers said, well, if you're not going to go to college, you're going to be fishermen. Do a good job of it. And I think we've both done a great job of enjoying life and just being good people.
Hey, everybody. This podcast is brought to you by Waypoint TV. Waypoint TV, as always, continues to grow, man. This thing is churning away. So many people are putting their shows over on Waypoint TV. You got hunting shows, fishing shows, short films, all kinds of content, whether you like fly fishing or ice fishing or saltwater fishing or whatever kind of fishing you like, there's some shows over there. They're all free, and you can go there. You can get them on your phone, on your tablet, on your computer, on your Apple TV at home. You can get them pretty much any which way you want. And if you can't get enough of Waypoint TV that way, you can go to Instagram, waypointtv.fishing, waypointtv.boating, waypointtv.hunting, Waypoint TV. That's the place to go. While you're on Instagram, you can follow me, Tom_Rowland. And I got a little more active on Instagram lately. Been putting up a few more posts, trying to keep in touch with people. It's a great way to keep in touch with me. And I find a lot of our guests through following people on Instagram. So one of the people that I like to follow on Instagram is a legendary sport fishing captain in South Florida. When I say legendary, I mean he embodies legendary. 52 years as a charter fisherman in Miami Beach. And he's been all over the place, been all over the world. He's guided in the Keys. His name is Captain Bouncer Smith. He has been on the podcast before. He's one of my favorite guests because he tells stories. He is a good storyteller, and he has a lot of them. With 52 years of charter fishing, this guy has a lot of stories. So last time, we finished the podcast, and then we talked for another 30 or 40 minutes. And I was kicking myself thinking, man, I should have recorded this too, because there was some really good stuff that happened in that conversation. So I wanted to go back to Bouncer, and our schedules were super tight, so tight that I had to meet him at his dock at 6 a.m. in the morning. So you're going to hear sounds of the harbor. You're going to hear, cruise ship horns and tugboats, and Bouncer's mate, AB, comes down, and he's getting the boat ready while we're doing this podcast. So I don't know, in one way or another, it's kind of cool because it is the sounds of the morning, the sounds of a fishing morning. Even the customer comes down, who is none other than Marty Arostegui, one of the probably holds as many, if not more, world records than anyone, getting ready to go fishing with Bouncer this morning. Very cool. I mean, the whole thing was just super cool. You got a legendary captain, you got a legendary angler, you got a legendary mate, and we're able to just kind of sit in. So that's kind of what you're going to hear and feel. This is a standard morning for Bouncer Smith, and I just happened to be sitting there. I was able to get a microphone in front of him. So I hope you'll enjoy this conversation with Bouncer Smith, and here we go. All right, sitting down here, 6 a.m. in the morning. I've been waiting for Bouncer Smith to join me, and I knew something was wrong because a 30-year charter guide does not show up late. So it turns out I was sitting at the wrong place. But now I'm sitting right by Bouncer's boat, Bouncer's Dusky 33, and he brought me some coffee, and I wanted to catch up with you this morning because last time we did this amazing podcast, and when we finished, we continued to talk on and on for another 30 minutes. So I wanted to hear about some of the things that I heard there, the fishing to make a difference and the stuff that you're doing with kids.
Oh, boy, I love dealing with the kids. And, it's an interesting thing when you're 25 or 30 years old. A mentor will say, here, you need money to get your car fixed. Let me help you out, or any number of different things that older people have saved long enough that they're able to do things, and you're struggling to keep the family fed and a roof over your head. Now I'm at that age in my life where I've got time and finances to be able to give back, and there's nothing better than giving back to these, not just the kids that are sick, but their families as well.
Right.
And you take mom and dad and a kid who's been sick, and they've had it tough. But just think about that sick kid's brother or sister, or brothers and sisters.
Right. That's very
true. They've
true.
been literally ignored. They've been shoveled off to grandma and grandpa, whatever the case may be, because all the attention is on the sick kid. So Fish to Make a Difference was founded by Clay Barker, and the premise was Joe DiMaggio Children's Hospital up in Hollywood, and we would take sick kids and the family out for a few hours of fishing. And we've gone snook fishing at the inlet. We've gone fishing for pinfish with little kids in the bay. We've gone tarpon fishing and sail fishing and whatever it takes to have a good time. And then I had one of the highlights of my life this last late December. Clay Barker called me up and he says, we've got a little girl who is really, really in big trouble. She's got cystic fibrosis. Her father passed away this past summer of cystic fibrosis. Hers has attacked her cystic fibrosis, which is in the lungs, has attacked her liver, and now it's deteriorating her pancreas, and she's in big trouble. Well, I have a white beard, so I let my beard grow a little longer.
Yeah.
And now I let it go even further, and I had a full white beard, and Clay Barker asked me to play Santa Claus. So we had a Christmas party for this 8-year-old girl named Dolly. And one of the highlights of the night was there was a little girl named Kara who had heard about this Christmas party. And she had been saving money all year to buy a brand new rod and reel. Her dad says, I can't afford to buy it for you, but I'll split the cost with you. So she was saving money all year to buy a brand new rod and reel. Her father read about this girl Dolly on the internet, and he told Kara about Dolly, and Dolly said, well, I did really good at saving money this year, but this little girl's really needs a big Christmas. So I want to take my savings and buy her Christmas presents. I've got a rod and reel that works, and I can save up the money again to buy my special rod and reel. So she took all of her savings and she bought presents for Dolly, this 8-year-old girl. This Kara is 7 years old, and she put in all her money to buy presents. And then we had this Christmas party, and we had the two girls and Clay Barker and his wife and the two girls' fathers, and it was just a great Christmas party. The girls built prefab gingerbread houses, and they had sandwiches and cupcakes, and we had a pile of presents for the 8-year-old Dolly to open up. I'm a big fan of stretching out opening presents, so they would bring us a present, and we would spend 5 minutes trying to guess what was in there, and I would come up with the goofiest answers, like this is probably a pony, or this is a box of marshmallows, or whatever it may be, and we just had a ball. And as we were driving home, I told Clay Barker, I says, we got to take care of Kara. She gave up her rod and reel, so we got to get her a rod and reel. So Clay said he would try to take care of it. Well, he got wrapped up in other goings on. He's got a whole bunch of grandchildren and stuff that he has to worry about, and daughters. But at any rate, the rod and reel didn't get acquired. And then Clay got the flu, so that set us back some more. So the first day I had a chance, I had already found the company that makes this rod and reel on the internet, but I finally called them up, and I bought the rod and reel and had it shipped to me. And then it came last Wednesday, so we contacted the father. Can you bring the daughter down here? And I contacted a lady who chipped in on the rod and reel, and she could make it. And Clay was still sick with the flu. But we were down here on the dock with a big bag of ballyhoo. And Kara and her dad showed up. And now, mind the Christmas party, I was dressed up as Santa Claus. But she came down this ramp right here. And I says, hey, how you doing? She turns to her dad. She says, I know that voice from somewhere. So I explained to her that Santa Claus often calls me to fill in for him when he's really busy. and the Christmas party was just before Christmas, so it was very practical. But at any rate, she had never fed tarpon before, so she fed the tarpon, 35 or 40 ballyhoo. And at first she was completely intimidated, and then she got braver as time went on, and she was feeding the tarpon, and then we surprised her with her selected rod and reel, and she was thrilled with that. And then you want to see somebody infatuated. She got on the boat, and she inspected every hatch on the boat.
Oh, yeah?
But both of those little girls, to make their lives better, was such a thrill.
Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to taking both the girls and Clay's grandson fishing in the very near future. So
that's cool. And
it'll
so
be a lot of fun.
With a story like that, that must really motivate you to want to do this more and more and more. Is that a strategy that you have of spending more time doing these things?
AB, you can do almost anything you want. We're allowed to be 45 minutes. This is AB Raymond.
AB,
he's been with me for 10 years. He's trying to tiptoe around, not making any noise.
But it's okay.
We only need a couple of kite rods, if that many, but heavy on the spinners. So ask your question again.
Well, I was just saying that you had such a rewarding experience with that. Is that motivating you to want to do this more and more?
That's an interesting question because want is a big word. I'm approaching 71. I've been heavy my whole life. I've been on a boat my whole life. You cut me shorter. You said 30 years. I've really been doing this 52 years.
I know. So. What was I thinking?
Well, 30 years is a long time to do one thing. 52 is real long. But at any rate, my body is getting very tired. So as much as I want to do more with the kids, I'm limited by what I can physically keep up with anymore. I run charters 6 days a week and supposed to run a couple of charters at night just because that's my favorite fishing. And then trying to get a couple of kids doing the trips. It's challenging, but I still keep working at it. So
yeah, but Fish to Make a Difference, now that's a television show too?
Yeah, they just became a television show here recently. And we did their very first show. And we're scheduled to have another show, but they've had some production problems or airtime problems on our second show. But the bottom line is that they were on Sun Sports, and they were voted the number one show of the now just finished quarter of television ratings. Number one show on Sun Sports, number one outdoor show. So
nice.
It was quite an honor, and I'm sure that a lot of that came back to the fact that every show was dealing with kids who had some challenge or another medically. And also, when they did the show, they did a very good job of explaining why they existed, what their goals and objectives were. So
yeah, well, it's always nice. I like to watch any time that we can bring fishing into helping people. The Redbone tournament was a really beneficial tournament for cystic fibrosis. You mentioned cystic fibrosis, and that was always nice to participate in those. But the one-on-one stuff where you have either a Make-A-Wish Foundation show or something like what you're doing, that's incredibly rewarding.
If you haven't done it, you owe it to yourself to do it. If you we have a new program in South Florida, which if you follow me on Instagram or Facebook at Captain Bouncer or Bouncers Dusky, if you follow me, we'll be announcing the dates for a mission fishing trip here in Miami. They run these up in Pompano on a regular basis, but we're coming to Miami. We're going to be here at Miami Beach Marina, and we look for volunteers to donate their boat time for a Saturday morning, and we bring kids and their families from one challenge or another, and the volunteers take them fishing for half a day. And if it's they did one in Pompano, and it was real rough. So R.J. Boyle's studios donated rigged double-hook ballyhoo. And they trolled around in the intercoastal waterway with double-hook ballyhoo. And who would think that you would expect to maybe catch a couple of barracudas, but they caught snook and mutton snappers and barracudas and bluefish, just all kinds of stuff on double-hook rigged ballyhoo.
Wow.
Trolling the intercoastal waterway. And up there, they don't have a place like Biscayne Bay. These boats can take the kids in Biscayne Bay, and there's sea trout and bluefish and mackerel and mutton snappers and groupers. And if it's a nice day, you take them out in the ocean and target those species. So.
Yeah. Well, if your body is getting tired, that was kind of what I was wondering about. If you're having trouble doing this personally, it sounds like working that way, that you're kind of recruiting other people to help to do this with those type of things. Is there more of a future in that of trying to, bring the community involved and getting more of those kind of days going?
That plus the fact that I have a guy that's worked with me for 10 years. His name's A.B. Raymond, just the greatest guy in the world. And as long as I can get down this ramp and over this rail, all I have to do is sit here, and he'll do everything else.
He does everything else?
Everything. I mean, from rigging the rods to baiting the hooks to pulling the anchor. For 20 years, I didn't even use a mate, which is not surprising to you because,
right.
A lot of guys in the industry work alone. Well, when I got into my 50s, I got a bigger boat, and I was getting tired, so I started using a mate. And luckily, after a few years of it, I met A.B., and we just have such a smooth program.
So you guys have been working for 10 years?
Yeah.
And A.B.'s right here getting the boat all ready right now. He's trying to be quiet, but he doesn't have to. And so how did you meet A.B.?
He was a dock rat. He grew up going to fishing club meetings at South Point Park, and he graduated to hanging around Miami Beach Marina and got hooked up with the rental boat company here, and he was cleaning boats for them and prepping them and fueling them up for rental boat trips and hanging around the dock. And, we were 100 feet apart, so he'd see our catches come in every day. And we had a couple other great captains here. And he just came over one day and says, "Hey, I'm A.B., and you've seen me around. I want to go fishing with you." I said, "What are you doing tomorrow?" He says, "Nothing." I says, "Okay, we're going sword fishing. Let's go." So.
Did you catch one on the maiden voyage?
Did we catch one on the maiden voyage? I believe we did, yes.
Really?
Yeah.
200-pounder on the first try?
Yeah.
That's pretty good. So he's, and then after that, he just starts working for you, and then...
Yeah, he worked his way up. He started part-time, a lot of the tarpon trips at night and filling in when my other mate wanted a day off. And as soon as I did a few trips with him, I knew he was the future for me. And I was actually told I couldn't hire him. We had a guy on the dock here, a guy named Matt, who describes himself as the president of the Mates and Captains Union. And the only people he represents are those who are trying to go to work for me. And he's really been a great help because over the years he's come over many, many times and says, you're burning this mate out. You got to get him some time off one way or another. In A.B.'s case, he says, "No, you can't hire A.B. He's got to go to college." And A.B. didn't finish college either. So
yeah,
A.B. and I followed very similar footsteps. We both had great parents. And when I graduated from high school, I was already working on boats 7 days a week and 6 nights a week. And my dad said, "You got to go to college." And I said, "Well, I don't know if the college is for me. I know I'm going to be a fisherman when I grow up." He says, "No, you got to go to college." So we finally compromised. I want 1 semester. And in A.B.'s case, he was dead set on being a fisherman or at least an outdoor writer. And his dad said, "You got this college program where the state's going to pay for you to go to college. You got to go to college." "No, Dad, I really need to go fishing." "No, you got to go to college." And both of our fathers said, "Well, if you're not going to go to college, you're going to be fishermen. Do a good job of it." And
yeah.
I think we've both done a great job of enjoying life and just being good people. So we both tried at it.
That's really important. the college thing, that's always that's tough when you've got a paying job that you're really enjoying. It's tough to try to decide is going and sitting in a classroom right for me right now, and that's a fine line that we've had to walk with our kids. It's kind of like, okay, well, do you really know what you want to do right now? And they say no. So I say, well, maybe college is a good thing for you, because if you don't know what you want to do, that's totally different than if you do know if you are dead set on this path of being a fisherman and that's exactly what you're going to do, and you have this roadmap laid out for you. Okay, great. Take off, go down that road. But if you don't know and you're just kind of hanging around wondering if you're ever going to kind of, lightning's going to strike and you're going to know what you want to do, well, maybe that's somebody that needs to go to college and kind of, work it out.
So I'm approaching 71 years old. And I can tell you, in hindsight, I wish I'd have gone to college.
Really?
Well, I've been a very lucky, successful businessman. But if I'd have gone to college, I would have been better at knowing about running a business. I could have known a lot more about approaching sponsors. Like, I have a few sponsorships, but there are guys in the fishing business, as you know, that they're not only getting materials, they're getting financial help with their businesses, which I've almost never gotten because I never went to college. And as I've gotten older, and it wouldn't apply in my case, but a kid today learning about how to use the internet for advertising, all the electronics of today. A guy today could really help himself by going to college.
Yeah.
But that being said, I have a good friend who has two sons. One son is really, really book smart. And he went to college, and he's doing a really great job with the college education. The other son could fix anything, could fix it, figure out how to fix anything. But he couldn't stand books.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't go to college, and he's doing great as well in life. So college isn't for everybody.
No.
But a little bit of college, like a junior college 2-year program, I don't think any kid should pass it.
Well, education is for everyone. And that education could come in many forms. And sometimes it's college. And sometimes it's real world experience. And sometimes it's learning on your own on the internet. Like you can pretty much learn anything. And there's all kinds of online classes and all kinds of things that people can do. But the education is super important to continue
no doubt about it. That's one thing I'd like to pass on. You talk about helping kids. One thing I'd like to pass on to those kids is the importance of an education, one type or another. Using Abe again as an example, one of his best friends went to a maritime school. And Abe and I have watched him go through the ranks of this ship I'm on is out of ketchup, and the crew only knows one ingredient, and that's curry. Help. To now he's a licensed ocean sea captain. He can operate any ship in the world except for sailing ships.
Wow.
Again, that was a different avenue as opposed to a business degree or a medical degree or anything else. He went to maritime school, had the school of hard knocks, working his way up, but now he knows what ship he's going to be on all the time. He sends us pictures fishing from a 900-foot ship or 700-foot, whatever it is, but he sends us pictures where he's out in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico on an oil tanker catching 100-pound yellowfins from 90 feet in the air. And he drops a grapple hook down, hooks them, they hook it up to the ship's winch and haul him on board. So
he's the most popular person on the boat as soon as that happens.
That's for sure. The last one he caught, he's in charge of overseeing the transfer of the oil from the oil rig to the ship. So he gets him started. He goes over, hooks a big yellowfin tuna, gives the rod to another guy, goes back to overseeing the transfer, comes back at 2 hours later, and the other guy's still fighting. He takes over, winds it up in 10 minutes because by now the tuna's as tired as the angler. Right. winds it up, hauls it up on the deck, and goes back to transferring oil.
Does he have a lot of good recipes for curry tuna?
He is a fan. Well, no, now he's on much more advanced ships, and he has his own cupboard in the galley because he's a gourmet chef. He prepares all kinds of meals on this, and it's not even his job. He just tells the chef, "Hey, I'm making tuna, or I'm making mahi." Or
That's cool. So that maritime school that he went to, was that like an academy, like the Merchant Mariner
SUNY
Academy?
Maritime, right?
Okay.
SUNY Maritime.
Yeah, because there's also like each one of the branches of the military, the Navy, the Army, the Air Force, they all have academies. But then the Merchant Mariners also have an academy, which I didn't know until I started looking at schools for my son. And there were some amazing opportunities there to go out on those ships and become welders and become, they taught you how to do all kinds of things. But the guy was talking to my son, and he was like, listen, most people go and they get a loan and they go deep into debt. If you come here, you're going to get paid. And as soon as you get finished, you're going to get a job that pays, around $120,000.
Yeah.
And the swing between that and being, $100,000 in debt when you get out of school, trying to work your way out of this giant hole, the swing is amazing. I mean, those kids are getting out and they're getting this amazing job and traveling the world. It sounded like a pretty cool opportunity to me.
As long as you don't need a family life.
Right. Yeah,
because
there's that.
If you work on a ship like this guy, he's got a really great job. He doesn't spend a penny when he's on the ship. So he's making over six figures. He's not spending any money for months at a time, but he can't see his girlfriend. You don't go to birthday parties, weddings, funerals, whatever it is, you miss it.
Yeah.
For 3 months.
Yeah.
And then you're home for 3 months and go fishing every day and diving and you live life large for 3 months. But it's part of the price of that quality of job. You take a guy like Abe. Abe makes a decent living. He never get rich being a fisherman. But I heard an expression recently that this young man in the fishing industry said, "I'm making a fabulous life."
Yeah.
I may not make the most money, but I'll enjoy every day of my life, and I can still pay my bills. So,
well, they say if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
Yep.
Which I don't necessarily agree with, because I love what I do, and we work harder than anybody I know. Well, I may be talking to the person that has the story of working the hardest I've ever heard.
No, he's over there.
Yeah, now he is.
He's over there. He loves it when it's 1 foot seas and the sailfish or whatever fitting for or biting like crazy. But when he comes to work in the morning, he says, it's blowing 25 knots, which is 30 miles an hour. Are we really going fishing? I says, yeah, we're going fishing. Oh no, this job ain't no fun today. So.
Yeah. But finding that, I mean, when you're talking about working with kids and you're talking about trying to instill the value of education, there's also instilling the value of finding something that you really, really enjoy. Some people call it, finding your passion. Some people call it whatever. What do you think about kind of directing these kids to understanding that there might be more than sitting in a cubicle somewhere, or there might be more, there's more?
Well, using myself as an example, by being in the fishing business, I raised a son and was happily married for 35 years. We always had a roof over our head. We always had dinner. I'm in a position now where I actually have enough income and reserves that I can do things for other people on numerous occasions, whether a prime example, and I'm not patting myself on the back or anything, but the other morning I went out to breakfast and I'm sitting there and 4 coasties come in, 4 guys in the Coast Guard. Now, they're not getting paid right now. They have to work. They're not getting paid right now, but they're out there watching out for our well-being every day. And as any full-grown adult knows, most guys in the military are sacrificing their time, their family life, and they're not making a real big paycheck. So I called the waitress over. They had just sat down. I gave her $60, and I says, those guys' breakfast is on me, and don't say anything about where it came from. Just pay for their breakfast.
Nice.
So So having an opportunity to give back is great. But where I was headed was being in the business that I've been in my whole life. I was fortunate enough to work for 8 or 9 different captains very early in my career. Some of them were great marlin fishermen. Some of them were great salesmen, because a fisherman has to be a salesman. Some of them were great entertainers, and some of them were just hardcore fishermen. But the bottom line was I learned a lot of things, a lot of different methods to get me started in the game. And then I developed a lot of stuff on my own. And then because of the career I've had, I was all expenses paid. I went to Italy and taught how to fish for swordfish. I go to the Cayman Islands every year, and I run a swordfish tournament. I took a boat down to Cozumel in the early days of Cozumel, when that was the sailfish capital of the world. I took a boat down there and brought it back, fortunately. That was a story in itself. I have fished all these different places. I spent 5 summers in Ocean City, Maryland, a summer in Oregon Inlet, North Carolina. I've fished Cape Cod several times. And I get to go fishing every day right here, and then I go on vacations. I go fishing again. I can't get enough of it. My vacations are Oregon for sturgeon, and Springfield, Missouri for the Hunting and Fishing Museum, and then we got to go smallmouth bass fishing while we're there, because we never caught one of them. It's just such a great career opportunity. I've been to St. Thomas numerous times. Just you get to see as much of the world as you want.
Yeah, but there's something to it, though, that there's more to it than just liking it and wanting to do it. Like on the last time that we talked, you have an amazing work ethic. You're not afraid to put in the work. And sometimes with the younger people, they need to understand the difference between just liking something and liking something enough to where you're willing to do things that other people would never do or never expect you to do, like work all day and then do a night trip for 10 days in a row or whatever it may be. That, when I talk to a lot of young people, the work part, the ethic part of just, it takes hard work. Yes, we live in a world right now that you could make anything happen. You can be anything, do anything. You live in the greatest country there is. There are no limitations. But you still got to put in the work. That seems like, if you were to give someone advice on that, like, what did it take to do all of those things that you just did, that you just said, all the travel and all of that? That didn't just come because you're a nice guy. That came because you're a nice guy and you have an incredible work ethic. And for 52 years, you've been putting it out there.
What you say is very true, but I have to go back to Aby again. Aby is 30 years old. He knows that he has to make a living. He knows that he's doing what he really loves to do. And there are days that he says, "Guys, going to make me go out in those 5 to 7 foot seas." And his work ethic is, if I have to do the job, I have to do the job. He knows that. But let's turn it around a little bit. He was working for me, and he quit because he was working 7 days a week and a few nights a week, and he was about to get married. And his future wife says, "I'm not going to be married to somebody that's never home." So he also had the ethics to understand that married life, a commitment to a woman in your life or a spouse, whichever way it may be, requires that you know when to fold. You can't just go fishing because you want to go fishing or because it's how you make a living. You also have to commit to the fact that if the boat's going fishing on Sunday, I don't care. Not, I'll put up with it, I'll stay home with the wife. I don't care that the boat's going fishing. I'm going to spend time with my wonderful wife. And if the boat catches a giant swordfish while I'm gone, that's life. I've got to spend the day with this beautiful woman. And she's going to give me children over the years and 70 years of happiness. So I have a commitment to her as well.
Right.
And it's very important in life. It's my sister talks about all the time, because we always talk about getting a dog. Because my sister and I are both dog people, and we share a condominium. And repeatedly we talk about the commitment of owning a dog or the commitment of having children. So many people today say, I think I'd love to have a son and a daughter. And then from the time they're born until the time they go off to college, they're raised by somebody other than mom and dad. And if you're going to have kids, then you have to have the commitment that you're going to be home at night at a reasonable hour so you can play catch with the kids or go to their baseball game or go to their ballet recital or whatever it is. And it goes all through life, commitments and commitments to having fun, making a living. That's just part of the game.
Yeah. So how does that conversation go when AB, you get him up to speed as your mate and you got him working 7 days a week and a few nights, and then he says that he wants to maybe spend a little more time at home? How does that, I mean, as an employer, you've now gotten this person up to speed, but you care about them. You see, like, if he keeps going on this road, that girl's she's not going to be around anymore.
Well, no, he didn't ask if I thought he should quit. He said I did quit.
I quit.
And it took me about 6 months to get the knife pulled out of my back. It wasn't just a knife. It was a full-blown machete. But I found a real good kid to replace him for a couple of years. And he went off, and he was still in the fishing business, but he learned a whole nother style and sales approach and approaches to the whole game. And then he came back, and he was better because he had another teacher in between. So we both came out ahead in the game.
Yeah.
He knew how much fun I was to work for now. And he knew he only had to work 6 days a week. And he could almost always convince me not to work on a Sunday. Almost always convinced me not to work on a Sunday. And now life is really good. Like I say, we don't even have to talk to each other.
Yeah.
I tell him we're going kite fishing, and that's all I have to say. We're going anchor fishing for mackerel. I don't have to tell him anything else.
So, AB, what is your favorite style of fishing with Bouncer?
He's like most fishermen. His favorite style of fishing is catching.
Yeah.
But AB and I have so many lucky opportunities. We had a great trip this summer. And you brought it to mind. We had a serviceman who had served his time in the military, got a educational fund from the military, and went to a school in Key West where a lot of the school was learning about diving. And I don't know where he's going, but
probably out on Fleming Key.
Maybe wherever it was.
That big tower out there.
But at any rate, he was learning a lot about diving, and he was going to a school in Key West on a military scholarship. And he was from the panhandle of Florida, and he called me up and he says, I see you're really good at this Cubera snapper fishing. My dad and I want to go. I'll bring the lobsters so we don't have to buy lobsters, and we'll meet at your boat and we'll go fishing. So we agreed on a date, and it was the last day we were Cubera snapper fishing in 2018. A mistake on my part, I might add. But they showed up, and Dad brought his favorite grouper fishing rod. And it's a 7-foot solid glass rod with a Penn Senator 9.0 full of brand new 80-pound monofilament. And I said, well, you're more than welcome to bring it along, but to be quite honest with you, we use these 6-foot Penn stand-up rods. They're easier to deal with. They don't give the fish the advantage. And we use dual-speed Penn Internationals because you can shift into low gear and still wind when the fish is pulling really hard. And we use braid because it's easier to feel the bottom. But you can bring it along, and we'll give it a try if it works out that way. So we had caught numerous Cubera snappers on this trip now. And I told AB, I says, let's drop a lobster on his rod, see if we can get lucky. Well, I'll have to show you the picture, but this old man had a smile that went right past his ears on both sides. On his solid glass rod with his 9.0 Senator, with his monofilament line and all the handicaps, he and his son tag teamed a 100-pound Cubera snapper on his own rod. And in the picture, his son is holding the Cubera snapper, and he's holding the rod, and his arms are in the air, and his smile just keeps right on going. damn near took the top of his head off. He was smiling so wide. So not all of our rewarding trips are 8-year-olds. Sometimes they're 78-year-olds.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, that's important for somebody like that to catch something on their own rod. That's awesome. Yeah. So the Cubera snapper, did you have a really strong season this year? What is the season?
Extremely good. We fished the full moon in August and September.
Yeah.
And the reason that we do that, we've gone down there, even when they were biting. Let's drop a chunk of bonita. Nope, no bites. Let's try blue crabs. Nope, no bites. I have learned over the years, if you really want to be successful, you go down there with lobsters. And so we have to fish. The mini season a couple of times has fallen near the full moon, and that is really good. But they seem to be smaller on the mini season. But at any rate, the mini season in July, the full moon in August, September have proven to be very effective. This past year, I wasn't real sure how good it was going to be because there's been a lot of pressure on them the last couple of years. So I didn't book any Cubera trips in September. I only booked them in August because then you're fishing the earliest in the season and less pressure has been put on them. And it was phenomenal. We had one trip with 10 fish, and I think we had another trip with 8 fish. The other trip that we ran, we never put a line in the water. We were a camera boat for a TV show, and they caught a few fish. It wasn't quite like fishing with us, but they caught a couple anyway. And then on the mini season, we took R.J. Boyle, and we had quite a few bites on that trip too. But on the mini season, again, the fish were much smaller. Makes them harder to hook on a live lobster than when they get bigger. So
yeah, I would imagine. Well, it takes a big mouth to eat a lobster,
no doubt.
And those fish have the jaw structure to just tear the thing apart.
Oh yeah,
so
you better believe it.
I would imagine that you mentioned smallmouth bass; they eat a lot of crawfish. And sometimes the crawfish is big enough to, they can just eat the whole thing. But other times they bite it and tear it apart. And I would imagine that with the jaw structure of those things, they're biting it and tearing it apart all the time. Is this your customers?
Yes, it is. Okay. This is the world famous Marty Arostaki.
Well, I thought that I recognized him coming down. I used to see him at Sunset Marina when he would be fishing with the Delphs.
Yeah. Good morning, Marty. How you doing?
Good morning, Marty. How are you? All right. Well, we won't keep you too much longer. I really appreciate you meeting me down here at 6 o'clock in the morning. Wow, this is like the who's who of fishing all of a sudden sitting here at the Miami Beach Marina. But I know that you guys are ready to go. So I hope you have a great day today, Bouncer. Thank you very much.
All our days are great. Just some are greater than others.
I believe that.
We go fishing every day. So I really thank you for coming up and spending time with me so early in the morning.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful environment. Temperature was perfect and everything.
It's perfect.
Not quite as perfect as the dining room in the condo, but not too shabby.
This is the best dining room there is. All right, well, you guys have a great day, and I'll be watching your Instagram page to see what you caught today.
You betcha. We'll be there.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Man, as always, I love talking to Bouncer Smith. He's got a lot of stories, man. A lot of stories. He can just keep on talking all day. If he could, I can't. I got to stop. He can keep going. Keep going, keep going, keep going. All right. Wow. That was incredible. So, not all podcasts are going to be done outside where you get all those noises and stuff like that, but I think it actually was pretty cool. Hope you enjoyed that one. If you did, rate and review the show on iTunes. It'd be awesome if you give us a 5-star rating. It'd be so cool. I would love that so much if I saw a bunch of ratings up there. Also, you can go to the podcast site, TomRowlandPodcast.com. You can hit me with an email at podcast@saltwaterexperience.com. Let me know what you think. Tell me if you got somebody that can tell a story better than Bouncer Smith, and I will track them down. All right, till next week. See ya.